Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Today I am back at my vanity to film my first update of the year for my Pan That palette. Although technically for me it's a Pan Those palette kind of year. I'm working on two separate palettes and trying to get as much use on them as possible during this year. I'll go ahead and link my introduction video right here if you haven't had a chance to see it yet and you want to follow me along for this entire year of panning. One palette I'm completely trying to finish up, and that is my Tarteist Pro To Go palette right here. And then another palette that I am just trying to hit pan on every shade is my Lorac MegaPro2 palette. And look at this beaut. I cleaned her. There's probably still smears. I cleaned her for you. It was disgusting and it looks way better now. It still doesn't look great, but hey, this palette has been through things, okay? It's about 6 years old, I'm just guessing, in my collection, and I think it's not too worse for wear considering how much love it has gotten in that time. So we're gonna go through each of these palettes, let you know my progress I've been able to make over the past month. Let's just get right into it. Starting with my Tarteist Pro To Go palette. This is a mini palette. It has 6 shades in here, and I wanted to bring in something that I thought I could actually feasibly finish within a year, so a little mini palette is perfect for that. Here's what this palette was looking like last month. I didn't have any specific goals for that first month. I just wanted to use it as much as possible, kind of get to know it a little bit better and see where I wanted to go from there. And here's what this palette is looking like this month. So as you can see, unfortunately, there aren't any new pans to share with you today, but I did get a ton of views and I'm hoping that you'll at least be able to see some dips starting to form in a couple of these shades. So I'm gonna go through each of the shades one by one, let you know how many times I use them and show you the before and after pictures after that month of use. The first shade in this palette is this kind of like darker creamy shade, and it's called Drive. Here's what this shade was looking like last month. I was able to reach for this shade 16 times in the past month, and here's what it's looking like today. There is a dip starting to form in this shade, but it's going to be hard for you to see. I use quite a large brush for this shade, and it's very evenly wearing down the shade, so I don't see a precise dip being formed. I'm a little disappointed to not have more progress to share on this one, but it is what it is. I've been using it as like a pre-transition shade. It's a little bit deep for me to use on my brow bone, but I use it just below my brow bone as a blending shade for my other transition. So it's kind of an extra step that I don't necessarily need, but at least I'm getting use on a shade, and I might try and find like another way to use it, maybe even as like a face powder somewhere, and hopefully have more progress on it in our next update. The next shade is Stylin', and Stylin' is kind of a strange shade. It's like a browny purple, very cool tone brown, and in the pan it looks almost purple, and in the swatch it kind of has like a very purple hint. I don't know if you'll be able to read that on the camera. It definitely looks very just brown on my hand, but whatever, that has been my experience with it. I've actually been using this as a bronzer a lot of the times, mixing it with Crisp down here at the bottom, and that's been working really well for me. I actually used it that way in my most recent Chit Chat Get Ready With Me, where I answered a bunch of questions and just chatted a lot. If you haven't seen that already, I'll link it here. It was a fun video. I enjoyed making it for all of you. So here's what Stylin' was looking like last month. I was able to reach for it 13 times, both as a bronzer and as a shadow. And after those 13 uses, here's what it's looking like today. This one is showing more of a dip because of the brush that I'm using with it. And although I have a nice dip coming along, still no pan, but I'm hoping that I can kind of ramp up my use on that one next month and hopefully have a pan to share with you in the next update. The next shade is this beautiful bronzy copper shade called Boss. This shade already had pan in it in my introduction video. I had reached that pan through my Pan Those Eyeshadows project, but I did reach for it 5 times. Here's what it looked like last month. And after those 5 uses, I'm hoping that you will see a slight expansion in the pan. Here's what it's looking like today. And I definitely need to ramp up my use on this one as well. I feel like I'm already feeling discouraged in this project, but I just haven't hit any pans, and I think I'm letting that kind of upset me. I really want to finish this, and if I'm going to do it, I need to change my strategy and be a little bit more aggressive on this palette. Maybe start using them as nail polishes. I've never done that before. It'd be something I'd like to try and a way to get a good amount of product used up quickly. So if you think I should try that, let me know in the comments. If that's something that's worked for you in the past, it might be an interesting little experiment for me. Maybe I could even mix this in with these other 2 shades in my bronzer look for like a more shimmery bronzer. Something to try, something to consider. I'll go down to the next row. Here we have Hype, And Hype is just a beautiful champagne-y gold shade, really easy to wear. Here's what it was looking like last month. I was able to reach for this shade 11 times during the past month, and I am starting to see a good dip on it. Here's what it's looking like today. We have a pretty wide, even dip on this shade, so we're using a good amount of product every time we reach for it. I've been using this shade as a highlight as well as an inner corner highlight as well as on the lid. So it's been very multifunctional, and I don't think that'll be a problem to reach for the remainder of the year, especially in the summer months when I'll love reaching for a goldy highlight. The fifth shade in this palette is Crisp, a very beautiful, warm, light brown shade. I actually have this shade in my crease today, and I wear it in my crease regularly. I really love it as a crease shade. It's basically one of my favorite crease shades to wear. So here's what it was looking like last month. I reached for it 13 times during the past month, and I've been using quite a fluffy brush for it. Here's what it's looking like today after those uses. And I wish I could see more of a dip in this pan right now, but I think kind of like Hype next to it is being worn down quite evenly, and that even though we're not seeing a lot of progress in the depth of it, there is still progress being made, and I need to remember that. And that's why I always take weights on these palettes to just like remind myself that there is progress, even if I'm not necessarily appreciating that progress in the moment. Which brings me to my last shade, Dominate. And this is like a shimmery maroon shade, really a nice shade, and I don't know why I haven't reached for it more. So here's what it looked like last month. I only reached for it 3 times in the past month, which is pretty abysmal. Here's what it's looking like today. Doubtful you'll see much of a difference at all. Maybe a slight disturbance in that pan. That's another one that I really have to kick myself in the rear about and get to work on. We are in the month of February, so some pink shimmers, maroony shimmers will fit the bill for this month, and I'm gonna set a goal for myself to reach for that shade, I don't know, 10 times in the next month. Do you think I can do that? I feel like that's very ambitious, especially with such a short month, but I'm really gonna go for it. I'm gonna try and reach for that shade 10 times. Okay. I also have quite the weight difference to share. However, take this with a grain of salt because my scale is consistently inconsistent. Last month, I weighed this in at 62.64 grams, and when I weighed it today, it was 61.08 grams. So there's a difference of 1.56 grams. I also gave this palette a bath, so I don't know if a lot of dirt was accumulated on the front and back that added to that weight difference. I mean, of course it did. My numbers might be a little bit skewed because of that, but also I think my scale is just not very precise, or sometimes if I just like get a bad weight once and can like skew my results for the next month. But take it for what you will. We have a weight difference, and at least it didn't go up in weight, you know? That's a good thing. My goals for the next month on this palette, like I said, are to use Dominate at least 10 times. It's a lofty goal, but I think I can do it. I'd like to reach for Hive, Stylin', Crisp, and Hype all like 15 times, maybe even 20 times, and Boss at least 5 times. I'm gonna kind of let that one go for a little bit. But I think I can do that, especially if I'm using these ones on the face on a more consistent basis. I should be able to get to that goal. Let's go ahead and reach for the stars. Let's set it at 20, and even this one, we'll set it at 20 as well. So wish me luck on that. I just need to ramp up my use on this if I'm gonna get anywhere close to finishing it by the end of the year. So hopefully those goals will help me get there. Moving on to my second focus palette for the year. This is the Lorac MegaPro2, which is a 32 pan eyeshadow palette, and I have a goal of hitting pan on every single shade in this eyeshadow palette. So here's what it was looking like last month. I already had pan on 12 of these shades, meaning I had 20 more pans to go. And here's what this palette is looking like this month. And it might be hard to tell from the video because there are so many pans to focus on, but I do have 2 new pans in this palette this month, and that makes me excited and at least a little bit encouraged. At least I have some kind of progress to share. The 2 pans I was able to hit were actually this one here in Sugar, and I also hit a pan right here in Sorbet. And that one was really close to pan last month. I think they both were, so maybe these were kind of gimmies, but I've also been trying to get really even use on the rest of the palette as well, and just like make a little bit of progress on these shimmers. So like eventually I will be hitting pan on a bunch of shades in quick succession. So I also was able to expand some pan, I believe, on these cream colored shades. And I also had 2 focus shades, and I forgot to mention those in my introduction video, but informally I had 2 focus shades that I was really trying to use 15 times. that was kind of crazy. I was a little too ambitious with that 15 use goal because I am doing my Pan Those eyeshadows, my deck of panning, my Pan That palette, and in my new project, the Project Level Up. So a lot of attention being spread over a lot of eyeshadows. One of the focus shades was Sorbet. So here's what Sorbet was looking like last month. I was hoping to reach for it 15 times. Unfortunately, I only reached for it 7 times, but fortunately, that was enough for me to hit pan. And I think I reached for it like 1 or 2 times after I hit pan. So I'm happy to have a new pan in that one. That's such a beautiful pink shade. I need to reach for that one more. But again, I'm not trying to expand these pans too much. I just want to be happy to hit pan in them. So once I hit a pan, I'm probably more quickly going to move on unless it just happens to be in front of me and I reach for it kind of just casually. I also chose to focus on Sandstone, which is like a really cool toned taupey shade. I'll go ahead and swatch it for you. It's kind of a weird shade. It's not a shade that I typically reach for. Butter, I swear. You just need all the attention. I know. If you see shaking, it's Butter's fault, okay? Like that. So this is not a shade I would typically reach for, but that's why I wanted to bring it in, and it looks really pretty in the swatch. I wish it looked this pretty on the eye. I haven't had that experience, even with glitter primer and all of those extra steps, but I'm happy I made it a focus shade. Here's what it was looking like. I don't think it had much use at all in the introduction video, and I reached for it 5 times in the past month, so it does have a little bit of a dip to share with you. Nowhere close to pan, but again, we're making slow progress, and maybe I'll come back to it and focus on it another time. I mean, I'm gonna have to if I wanna hit pan on it, but I'd like to just kind of like reach for these shades very gradually, you know, reach for each shimmer a couple times each month. And by June, July, midway through the year, I'll have a lot of nice dips on those shades, and pan will be just around the corner and we'll be hitting them in rapid succession. That's my hope. So I'm really close to pan on a few of these shades. I'm really close in Tangerine here, also in Forest. I actually have that one on my outer corner today. I also am very close in Prosecco here. I've been using that as a highlight. And what else am I close in? Those are the ones that I'm the closest in. Melon is probably the next closest. It has a nice little divot going in there. So I'm going to again choose 2 focus shades, and I want these to be shades that I don't normally reach for. I'm not going to make Prosecco a focus shade, even though pan is so close. I'm going to hit it regardless. So I want to really make some dips and make some progress on these shades. Since we're in the month of February, why not reach for some romantical shades? I'm going to make this shade right here a focus for the month. That is the shade Purple. The purple shade. That'll pair really nice with a purple in my Pan Those eyeshadows, as well as just provide some fun Valentine's looks. And if you've been here a while, you know I'm a big fan of purple. Oh, I also have Olivine I wanted to mention. I have Olivine right here on my lid all over as well. Love that shade. There's like another shade from my Pan Those eyeshadows on the inner part of my eye, but Olivine is all over the lid for most of the space there. I love that shade. Should I make it a focus? I don't know. My next focus shade will be this one here, Soft Plum, and this is like a really soft, satiny lilac shade. This one is like, I don't know, I just don't love satin finishes. I'd rather just have like a matte or a shimmer, but maybe this will help me to fall in love or at least appreciate satin finishes more. So there is Soft Plum. It is a really pretty color. So I'd like to challenge myself to reach for that one and make some good progress on it in the next month. And just to make my life a little bit extra difficult, I'm gonna add a 3rd focus shade for this month, and that is going to be Dark Sienna. This is such a dark shade that I wanna have use on it during these last few weeks of winter we have. Here it is swatched. Again, it's like a satin finish, and it is quite a deep brown. It looks deeper on the swatch than it does in the pan, but this one has probably the least amount of progress on it, or close to the least amount. I mean, Ash also has a very small amount of use, but it's one of my least used shades in this palette, and I just wanted to get myself to kind of start chipping away at it a little bit more. So I'm going to try and reach for Dark Sienna 5 times. I'm going to try and reach for Soft Plum, let's say 10, and Purple, let's say, I don't know. We'll go for 10. I don't know if we'll get there, but why not? Again, we're shooting for the stars here. The weight on this palette last month was 264.7 grams. I did give it a good bath, so we got a lot of muck and grime off of this palette as well. That's going to reflect the difference in weight. This month it is 263.62 grams, so I've used 1.08 grams of product and cleaned off a little bit of product there as well. that is all for my update this month. I really hope you enjoyed seeing my progress. I wish I had more progress to share with you. At least we have 2 new pans, so it ain't all for nothing. Hoping to have a much bigger, more exciting update for you next month. Definitely subscribe to my channel if you aren't already so you don't miss it. If you like these kind of videos, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and let the YouTube algorithm know. Hopefully they'll provide more videos like this for you to see if they're not already completely in your feed like they are mine. Leave a comment down below. Are you painting a palette this year? I would love to follow along with your journey. I hope you're doing really well out there, and I cannot wait to see you in my next video. Bye.